We're going to look at section 12.3, the present subjunctive. So every verb in Spanish has the following three characteristics. They each have tiempo, or time, which answers the question when. There's el presente, el pasado, el futuro. Each Spanish verb also has what's called aspecto, or in English, aspect, which answers the question, is it over with or is it ongoing? So we have el perfectivo, which is sort of finished and completed, tenses like the pretérito. And then we have el imperfectivo, which means it's continuous or ongoing. The present tense is in there, and also the imperfect tense, of course, is an imperfectivo aspect. And then we have what we're looking at today in this video, which is el modo, or the mood it's called, which answers the question, is it real and exists, or is it hypothetical and sort of speculative? So you've been learning pretty much this entire time el indicativo, which means it's real and it exists and there's no sort of doubt there at all. And today we're going to look at the subjunctive mood. Specifically, we're going to look at the present tense of the subjunctive mood. The present tense, as I said before, is always an imperfectivo aspecto. Do know there does exist the past subjunctive, which we'll get to in future chapters, and also the futuro. There doesn't exist the future subjunctive, sort of fell out a couple hundred years ago, which is a good thing, so you only have to learn the present subjunctive. So with the exception of commands, pretty much all the verbs you've been learning and using have been in the indicative mood. And the indicative is used to state facts and express actions or states that the speaker considers to be real and definite. In contrast, the subjunctive mood expresses the speaker's attitude toward events as well as actions or states the speaker views as uncertain or hypothetical. The present subjunctive is formed very much like the usted, ustedes, and negative to commands. From the yo form of the present indicative, we simply drop the o ending and replace it with the opposite ending, or subjunctive endings. For AR verbs, it's an E, and for ER and IR verbs, it's an A. For example, hablar becomes hable, comer becomes coma, escribir becomes escriba. As I said, present subjunctive endings are es, hemos, eis, en, and for ER, IR verbs, we have as, amos, ais, an. So we just kind of look at it all together, like hable, hables, hable, hablemos, habléis, hable, hablen, digo, coma, comas, coma, comamos, comáis, coman. And this is one reason why pronunciation is so key in the Spanish language, is because if you were to pronounce the word habla like hable, someone might hear the subjunctive mood instead of the indicative mood and would just sort of be confused by that. So the trouble is that verbs with an irregular yo form also show the same irregularity in all forms of the present subjunctive. For example, conducir becomes conduzca, conocer, conozca, decir, diga, hacer, haga, ofrecer, ofrezca, oír, oiga, parecer, parezca, poner, ponga, tener, tenga, traducir, traduzca, traer, traiga, venir, venga, and ver, vea. So as I said, we just go to the present indicative, pretty much the yo form, which all these end up being irregular, and add the opposite ending to form the present subjunctive. So with cargar and zar verbs, to maintain the harsh sounds, or rather the hard sounds that these verbs have, we also have a spelling change in all forms of the present subjunctive. For example, with a verb like sacar, it becomes saque, Q-U, saques, saque, saquemos, saqueis, saquen. Without that, it would be sase, which sounds nothing like sacar. Same thing happens with jugar, juegue, juegues, juegue, jueguemos, juguéis, jueguen. As I said, it goes from a G to GU, and the reason why is to protect the sound. It would sound like jueje or something, which doesn't sound much like jugar. And the same thing happens with zar verbs like almorzar, almuerce, almuerces, almuerce. And so with stem changing verbs, AR and ER stem changing verbs have the same stem changes in the subjunctive as they do in the present indicative. Many of them end up being stem changing from E to IE, like the verbo pensar, piense, pienses, piense, or mostrar, muestre, muestres, muestre. O también entender, entienda, entiendas, entienda, entendamos, entendáis, entiendan. And volver, O-to-U-E, vuelva, vuelvas, vuelva, vamos, volváis, vuelvan. Do notice that in the nosotros and vosotros forms, these do not stem change. They sort of stem change in the boot of the verb, as we call it, or all of the other rather conjugations except for nosotros and vosotros. IR stem change verbs have the same stem change in the subjunctive as they do in the present indicative. But in addition, the nosotros and vosotros forms undergo a stem change. The stressed e changes to i, while the unstressed o changes to u. Por ejemplo, pedir, pida, pidas, pida, pidamos, pidáis, pidan. Sentir, sienta, sienta, sienta. Sintamos, sintáis, sientan. So here's where the difference comes in. And dormir, duerma, duermas, duerma. Durmamos, durmáis, duerman. And these 5 verbs are irregular in the present subjunctive. We have dar, which is de, con acento des, de, demos, deis, den, y estar, esté, estés, esté, estemos, estéis, estén, and ir, vaya, vayas, vaya, vayamos, vayas, vayan, saber, sepa, sepas, sepa, sepamos, sepáis, sepan, and ser, which is sea, seas, sea, seamos, seáis, sean. And do know that there's also a subjunctive form of the verb I, which is from the verb haber, which means there is, there are, and it's also irregular. It is haya. Like I doubt that there is or are things there. Do look at haya instead of I. So probably the most important point of this entire presentation is the general uses of the subjunctive tense. It's sort of like, when do we use these things? I think generally students understand how to conjugate it and different things where you can learn that, but when to use it is always a tough thing. And so we use this acronym here, WEIRDO, to explain the uses of the subjunctive mood. First we have will and wishes, maybe words like desear, which means to wish something, or querer, my mom wants me to whatever. Or we also have emotion, like I'm sad that, or I'm happy that this thing happened. We also have impersonal expressions, like it's good that, it's bad that, es bueno que, es malo que, it's urgent that, es urgente, es importante que. Also recommendations, specifically from the verb recomendar many times. My mom recommends that I study biology. Me recomienda que estudie biología. Also the D, we have doubt, disbelief, and denial, and sort of involved in that sort of indefiniteness or non-existence. Something doesn't exist, or you doubt that it does, or you're in disbelief or denial about it. The next word would use the subjunctive mood. And the last one is ojalá, which is just a word, actually it came from Arabic in several hundred years ago. That means to hope to God. It literally means I to God. Ojo Allah. It kind of means that someone hopes, it isn't necessarily I, but someone hopes that this thing happens. Ojalá, whatever, whatever. And the next verb will be in the subjunctive once you use that. So the subjunctive is most often used in a sentence that contains a main clause and a subordinate clause. The main clause contains a verb or expression that triggers the use of the subjunctive. And it always consists in these 3 parts. You have, so the main clause that triggers the subjunctive, the connector, which is que, always the word que, and then we also have the subordinate clause, which has the verb in the subjunctive mood. It's sort of also important that many times there's also a change of subject here, which is sort of throws this subordinate clause into the subjunctive. It's very important that you go to the hotel right now. If you notice, there's a change of subject and also these 3 things. This is an impersonal expression. Es muy importante. We have the second one, which is que, and so this verb needs to go into the subjunctive mood. As I said before, this mood is sort of kind of hypothetical or speculative, or could be in disbelief, and is specifically triggered by these specific things. The next verb can't really be in the indicative tense at that rate if one of these expressions or uses ends up in a sentence, only because they need to express the speculative nature of the next verb, and the way they express that speculative nature is with the subjunctive mood. We do it in English often too with the word were. If I were you, I would whatever, whatever. But am I you? No, I'm not. So it's sort of hypothetical and speculative, and I'm mentioning that by using the word were. We just sort of have a very limited use of it in English, and then in Spanish use it often, and as I said, when triggered by this weirdo acronym. And these impersonal expressions are always followed by clauses in the subjunctive. Es bueno que, it's good that. Es mejor que, it's better that. Es malo que, it's bad that. Es importante que, it's important that. Es necesario que, it's necessary that. And es urgente que, it's urgent that. And as I said, the next verb, number 3, if you will be in the subjunctive mood.